Hello everyone, welcome back to my channel. I hope you're doing well. Today I'm really excited because I am doing an Asian American Pacific Islander 24-hour readathon, and I'm doing this with my friend Autumn from Autumn's Booktique. Originally we had planned for this to be just a regular readathon, but then out of nowhere I decided that I wanted to make it an Asian American Pacific Islander readathon. I do have a few books on my TBR that I have been wanting to read by Asian American authors, and I figured now was a really great time to do it. It's been a while since I've had a Saturday to myself, so I'm really excited to be by myself filming a readathon and reading some pretty good books, just spending the entire day reading. So this readathon will start at 9 a.m. today, which is in about 30 minutes. And it will end tomorrow morning at 9 a.m. And I will be reading, as the title describes, all Asian American Pacific Islander books. And I have a lot, and most of these books are actually written by Filipino authors. A little bit about myself: I am Filipino American. I was born in America, but my parents are immigrants. I've kind of struggled with my own identity because I'm kind of pulled between two different cultures. English is also not my first language, even though I was born here. My parents actually taught us our native language, which is not Tagalog, by the way. So when I was a kid, that's all I spoke until I went to school. And part of the reason why I didn't read when I was a kid was because I didn't really know English very well. At home we would speak Kapampangan, and then whenever I learned English I kind of forgot how to speak it, but I still understand a lot of it. And when I went to school and started to learn English, I kind of struggled with making friends and communicating with people, and I still do have issues communicating with people sometimes. That's part of the reason why I didn't read for most of my life. And also another thing that I've been super passionate about is getting more people to read, because I didn't really grow up with any role models in my life who read. Maybe like one person, I can't even remember, but nobody in my family ever read, so I would really love for more Filipino Americans to read more, and also Filipinos in the Philippines. But so that would be something that I'm like really passionate about. Okay, my TBR is a little bit ambitious, so I might not get through all of these books, but I will show you what I plan on reading. So the first book I plan on reading is On Earth We're Briefly Gorgeous by Huang. And I started this book last month, but I got caught up reading Twilight. I'm a huge mood reader, so I just started reading other books instead. But it's not that long of a book, and I'm a third of the way through it, so I'm gonna knock this out first. This one is really beautiful so far. I've talked about this a little bit before, but this is basically a letter from a son to his mother, and his mother cannot read. That's the basic gist of this one, and it's really beautiful, so I'm really excited to finally finish this one. After that, it really depends on what my mood is, so these are in no particular order at all. The next book I plan on reading is Somewhere in the Middle by Deborah Francisco Douglas. This is, I think it's like an autobiography, or it's like a memoir or something about the author, who is half Filipino but raised in an American household. She goes back to the Philippines as a Peace Corps volunteer. She uses this opportunity to discover more about her own heritage. The next book is called The Farm by Joanne Ramos, and this is another Filipino American author. Sorry for the changes in the lighting. The sun decided to come out today. It was like really cloudy when I started filming this video, and now it's like starting to get really sunny. So this book is a fiction novel. It's about a luxury retreat where everything is provided for free. Organic meals, personal fitness trainers, daily massages. It says it's all for free. However, there's a catch. So you have to stay for 9 months completely monitored and completely cut off from your previous life while you carry a baby to term. So this follows Jane, who is an immigrant from the Philippines who wants a better life for herself. So naturally she goes to this place, but she also wants to connect with her previous life outside of this retreat. So I'm really excited to read this one, and I also have this one on audiobook. The next book that I have is A Wish in the Dark by Christina Soontornvant. I really hope I pronounced that okay. This is a fantasy middle grade, and it's about a boy who escapes a prison which he has lived in his whole life, and the warden's daughter goes and finds him. And that's all I know about that. So I have 2 more books, but I don't have the books physically. I actually have them on Libby, which I checked out from the library. The first book that I have checked out on Libby is The Kiss Quotient by Helen Huang, which I have as an audiobook. And this is a romance novel about Stella, who is an autistic woman who hires an escort in order to explore intimacy with other people. So I'm excited for this one. And then the last book that I have, which I also checked out from Libby, is a Kindle version of America Is Not the Heart by Elaine Castillo. This book, I believe, is about a girl who gets a fresh start in the Bay Area after immigrating here, I think with her uncle, and it's just about this family who lives in the Bay Area after immigrating from the Philippines. And it's basically about the American dream and this family's struggle to attain it. Like I said, it's a pretty ambitious TBR. I don't think I'm gonna get through all of these books, but I would at least like to get through 3 of them. So 3 is my goal. I'm doing this with my friend Autumn. So if you want to visit Autumn's channel, I'll leave a link in the description for that. And I'm gonna go make myself some coffee and a little bit of breakfast because I am starving right now. Hello everyone, so quick update on the readathon. We're 2 hours and 10 minutes into the readathon and so far so good. I started reading The Kiss Quotient and from the beginning it's like really steamy, so I think I'm gonna save that book for later when I'm tired, and then the steaminess should be able to keep me up a little bit later than normal. I do get like really cranky when I'm tired, so reading a book that's like fun and steamy will probably keep me up a little bit. So I'm actually gonna start another audiobook, and the only other audiobook that I have is The Farm, which I also have as like a physical book. So hopefully I could get through at least this one during the readathon. So this one's about 300 pages and the words are kind of small, so hopefully I could get through it, but I really just wanted to read a book by a Filipino author. So since I have this one on audiobook as well as the physical book, it's probably the one that I'm gonna get through the fastest. The Kiss Quotient, we'll see if I finish that one, but I really do want to finish that one today. And also I was reading On Earth We're Briefly Gorgeous, which honestly this is probably one of the most beautiful books that I've ever read. I've always had a hard time explaining how things are written, but the imagery and the way that everything is described in this book are so beautiful. It feels like I'm reading a work of art. I guess that's the best way to describe it. It's just so beautiful. Even though I'm only halfway through it, I already feel like this book is gonna make me cry, and I'm kind of like tearing up just thinking about it, but I'm really excited to get through it. Autumn told me that this book is one of the books on her reading list, so I'm probably gonna suggest it to her because it's not that long, and also it's so beautiful. So I'm probably gonna text that to her today. Definitely gonna get through The Kiss Quotient and On Earth We're Briefly Gorgeous, and then we'll see what happens with The Farm. I really love this book, by the way. It's like super floppy and I keep like fiddling with it. I just really love floppy books. I'm gonna keep reading and I'll check back in with you guys later. So it is now 7:15 and we're almost halfway through the readathon. It'll be halfway in about 2 hours. Just to give a quick update, I finished On Earth We're Briefly Gorgeous, and honestly this book is probably gonna be one of the best books that I've ever read this year. The writing style is like nothing I've ever seen before. It's honestly so beautiful. There were so many really meaningful passages in this book, and I really identified with this book. I feel like I grew up similarly to the author in the sense that both of us didn't know English when we were growing up, like as children, and because of that we're just really quiet a lot, and as a result we're very misunderstood. But there's a lot of heartbreaking things that happen in this book as well. Besides that, the writing is just incredible. I highly recommend this book. I swear this is probably one of the best books I've ever read. I cannot say enough how beautiful this book was. Autumn's reading this book as well, so I really wonder what she's gonna think of this book. After I finished On Earth We're Briefly Gorgeous, I started focusing on The Farm, and to be honest, I've been mostly listening to the audiobook. I haven't been doing that much like actual reading, but I'm about this much through the book and I only have this much left. I have 120 pages left of this book, and I honestly feel like I might be able to finish it tonight. So The Farm so far is pretty good. It reminds me a lot of The Handmaid's Tale because of the surrogate mother thing that's going on in this book. For some reason, I thought that the incentive to become a surrogate mother was living in this idyllic neighborhood afterwards, but I guess you only live here until you carry the baby to term, which makes sense. But you do get paid a lot of money to be a surrogate mother. But this book is really giving me huge Handmaid's Tale vibes, except that the surrogates are actually carrying the baby, like it's not their baby that they had to, you know, and they're also treated a lot better. It's just the fact that they're monitored so heavily, and they also are forced to stay there and have limited communication with their other family members. That just reminds me of The Handmaid's Tale. This one is looking like a 4-star read because I really do like it, but it's not like a heavy hitter for me. And to be honest, it kind of stresses me out, like how much they're monitored in this book. I don't know why, it just like really stresses me out when I feel like I'm being watched all the time, and books or movies that are like that stress me out so much. I've been listening to this book and the Kiss Quotient on 2x speed. I've never actually listened on 2x speed, and it's actually not that bad. I thought I wasn't gonna understand that much on 2x speed, but I'm actually getting through books quite faster and I can still understand what's happening. So we'll probably finish this one tonight, and then I'm saving the Kiss Quotient for later. But then after I finish The Farm, I'm gonna start on A Wish in the Dark because this one's probably not gonna be too bad. This one's nearly 400 pages long, but the words on the pages are pretty big, so maybe I will get through it, but I'm not sure. So this will be the last check-in of the day, and then I'll probably check in tomorrow morning whenever I wake up. I do plan on staying up until midnight tonight and then waking up at 5 a.m. tomorrow. So it's gonna be an early morning for me, but luckily I'm a morning person. I mean, 5 a.m. is a little bit earlier for me, but it's not as bad. And then after I finish the readathon, I'm probably gonna like crash and take a nap and stuff. But yeah, I'm gonna keep reading this and then I'll check back in with you guys in the morning. Everyone, so the readathon is over. Honestly, I really needed to do that because I have been spending most of my days pretty much glued to the screen due to the fact that all of my work has all been on the computer. All of my schoolwork and my lectures are all on the computer, so it's really nice to just spend most of the day not being on a device. Even though I was listening to the audiobooks, and here and there I would watch an ambience video or watch some anime, for the most part I really wasn't using or like actually looking at the screens. That's the thing about cloudy days, you're not really sure when the sun's gonna come out. This was probably the most productive readathon I've ever had, because I've done readathons before I started this YouTube channel and they've not been as productive and I've not read as much. But this time I finished 3 books. The first book that I finished was On Earth We're Briefly Gorgeous by Huang. I already talked about how I felt about this book, but I'll say it again. This book is literally a work of art and I highly suggest it to everyone. I identified with a lot of the things that he experienced, especially when he talked about the communication barrier that he would have with other people, which is something that I've struggled with for most of my life. Even now, sometimes I find it hard to articulate the things that I'm trying to say. And like I said before, the imagery that is used in this book is like nothing I've ever seen before. 5 out of 5 stars for On Earth We're Briefly Gorgeous, and it is probably one of my top books of 2021. We're almost halfway through the year, so I feel like I can say that, but this is definitely one of the best books that I've ever read. Not just one of the best books that I've read in 2021, but just one of the best books that I've ever read, ever. The next book that I read was The Farm by Joanne Ramos, and I never really talked about what this book was about. It's basically about a facility that takes care of surrogate mothers and monitors everything that they do and all of their outside communications. Hello? This book really stressed me out because surveillance and like books that make you feel like you're constantly looking over your shoulder or like you don't know when your character is gonna get in trouble and stuff, it really like makes me anxious. And throughout this entire book, everything is literally monitored, and during some points in this book you really can't trust certain people. It's not okay, so I compared this to The Handmaid's Tale, except that this is not a dystopia, and I could definitely see something like this happening in real life, like right now. I couldn't really get behind the main character's motivations, Jane, and it might be because I'm not a mother myself. During a lot of points in the book, the main character is driven by like her intense love for her daughter. At some points she goes into a blind rage because of her daughter. I couldn't really identify with it, but also like I'm not wholly judging it because I've never been a mother and I wouldn't be able to understand until I had my own child. So if anyone plans to read this book and is a mother, please let me know what you thought of this book, and let me know what you also think about like her motivations and what drove her to do certain things. It did kind of drag a little bit, and some of the language didn't roll off so easily, but for the most part I really liked this book, so I rated it a 4 out of 5 stars. The last book that I read was completely on audiobook, and that was The Kiss Quotient by Helen Huang. This book is really steamy, and I don't know why I just didn't expect that, but it's really steamy from the beginning. Like within the first few chapters she already meets the guy, and they, you know, they mess around and stuff, which kind of caught me off guard. I started with this book at the beginning of the readathon, and then I realized like I could save it for later because of like the steaminess and stuff. I saved it for last night for when I would feel sleepy, and then I figured that the steaminess would help wake me up. But I really didn't get through that much last night, but I did finish it this morning, and I thought this was a really cute book. I thought Stella was just the cutest person ever, and I also kind of identified with Stella because sometimes I can be a little bit obsessive and analytical, and at times I don't even know what I'm saying myself until afterwards. I don't really think about what other people think. I'm just like a really brutally honest person. This was the very first book that I've read about an autistic person or somebody that's on the spectrum. I thought it was pretty cool to learn a little bit more about like their inner workings and stuff, because I believe Helen Huang is actually on the spectrum herself. But I really loved listening to this audiobook and learning a little bit more about people who are autistic. Super steamy book, so if you are not into that, you've been warned. I kind of feel like I would have enjoyed it a lot more if I gave myself the time to read it physically. I don't read romance novels that often, so I'm not a very good judge of how these books should go, but I really liked it, so I gave it a 4 out of 5 stars. I got maybe like 5.5 hours of sleep throughout this whole readathon, which I'd say is pretty good. I woke up at 5 a.m. this morning. I went to sleep at like 11:30 last night because I ended up getting a headache, but I ended up waking up at 5 a.m. this morning. I think the reading to sleeping ratio was pretty great, so super successful readathon. And I really wonder how Autumn did. And now you have a few recommendations on what to read next. As far as Asian American Pacific Islander authors goes, you have a little bit more recommendations now. So I really hope you enjoyed watching this video. I had a lot of fun making it and I had a lot of fun reading. If you did enjoy this video, don't forget to give it a thumbs up because that helps me out so much. If you've read any of these books, please let me know what you thought of them in the comments below. And also leave me a comment if you want me to make more of these videos, if you really enjoy these 24-hour readathons, because this is the first one I've ever made. If you're new to my channel, consider subscribing because I post new videos every Sunday. Thank you so much for watching and I'll see you in my next video. Bye!